Welcome back to another episode of Rock Boys Football. Billy Napier, the Florida Gators, rolling on the recruiting trail. We just finished up talking about Jeremiah McLeod committing to Florida in the 2025 class. Less than an hour later, the top-ranked offensive lineman available in the transfer portal, Jason Zandamela, also committing to the Florida Gators. Now, we've talked a little bit of Jason Zandamela. The USC fans certainly know how I feel about this kid. I think the upside is so special with Jason Zandamela, and I think he's coming into a situation that really is perfect for him because we kind of knew that, yes, the upside is there. He's probably not a year one guy. He has the ability now to sit behind an offensive lineman, a center, in Jake Slaughter, who I think is a very good football player heading into 2024, continue to develop that body. And I think you look at 2025, 2026, you are looking at a difference maker at the center position. Want to treat this one kind of like a commitment in the 2024 class. Talk Jason Zandamela. Take a look back at what he did at the high school level. Talk about what he brings to this Florida Gators offense before we get into it. And as always, just want to say thank you to you guys. It's been a busy last couple of days for the Florida Gators on the recruiting trail. Y'all know I love talking about it. Can't thank you guys enough for rocking with the fellas. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. And without further ado, let's get into this one. And again, the USC fans know how I feel about Jason Zandamela. I think the future is extremely bright. And before we get into Jason Zandamela, I think it's worth noting two different things. The close for Billy Napier in the 2024 class is a lot better than people really appreciate, because what have you done over the last couple of months? You go out to Alabama and land Jameer Grimsley, who doesn't necessarily count in the 2024 high school recruiting rankings, but essentially a 2024 commit. Now you add Jason Zandamela, who was a top 50 national prospect coming out of that 2024 class. Billy Napier in this Florida Gators program took some heat about how they closed in that recruiting cycle. You take a look at how it kind of finishes up. You add Jameer Grimsley, Jason Zandamela. That is a really impressive 2024 class. But I think more importantly, we talked a little bit about this when we talked Jeremiah McLeod. Billy Napier's building through the trenches. And you look at this offensive line, particularly the youth on this offensive line, I think you have to be really fired up about what this offensive line is going to look like come 2025 and 2026. You look at Fletcher Westfall, a guy that I love at the tackle position in the 2024 class. Najee Harris, a young second-year player that I think probably starts for the Florida Gators, the guy that I am fired up for. Rod Kearney. You're seeing Billy Napier really kind of dig his hands into what this Florida Gators roster and depth chart is looking like. And you make no mistake about it, he's starting to build along the line of scrimmage. And Jason Zandamela is another massive addition to that youth pipeline on the offensive line. Now, you get into Jason Zandamela, I want to go back and just check a little bit of the film out from the high school ranks. He's one of my favorite players to watch on film, but you kind of take a look at the athletic profile. And this was a kid that grew up in Mozambique, came over to the United States, hasn't really played football all that long, was a rugby player before he put on the pads and helmet. You see just the raw athleticism that Jason Zandamela brings to the table. And one of his knocks was he was a little bit undersized coming out of high school, right? 6'3", around 275, 280 pounds. You look at, he spent that spring at USC, he's up to 305 pounds. So I think if you're Florida, you feel much better about the frame and the weight. But I think what you're most excited about is the athleticism that he brings to the center position. And more importantly, kind of the untapped potential. Again, a guy that has not played that much football during his life, now continuing to develop some of those skill sets, get a better feel for the sport. I think you're going to see Jason Zandamela really explode from a developmental standpoint. You take a look at the film, and again, the thing that really stands out to me when you turn on the film for Jason Zandamela is the different ways you can get him involved at that center position. And quite frankly, there's just not a lot of centers that you can ask to do as many things as you're going to be able to ask Jason Zandamela to do. I think he works up to the second level extraordinarily well. It's probably his best trait in terms of operating in space, getting up to that linebacker, putting the linebacker in the dirt. Again, for a guy that was quote-unquote undersized at the high school level, he doesn't really play undersized. You can tell a really strong core, knows how to use his pads. And again, that rugby background probably allowing him to play with some of those low pads, understand that leverage a little bit. And again, really, really powerful coming off the line. You see how comfortably he is getting out of the stance, playing with low pads, putting people in the dirt. I just think you see such a special athlete, really, really strong core there, really special athlete on the film. And that's kind of what stands out to me the most. And we're going to get into some reps where you're asking to pull. I mean, 280-pound body, just gliding through, pulling around, getting a hat on a hat. Not a lot of centers can be asked to do that. He just seems so comfortable playing in space, working up to the second level. He kind of brings those athletic intangibles that you don't really see in a ton of centers. Jason Zandamela certainly has that. And again, he can get downhill and be a little bit of a mauler too. And I think that only gets better once he gets into this Florida Gators program, continues to get that body right. I think you see really good film from Jason Zandamela at the high school level. But if you're a Florida Gator fan, what excites you the most is, what does he look like come year 2, year 3 in the program? That's what excites me the most. And again, you look at Billy Napier and what he's doing on the offensive line. That's how he wants to build this program. And you look at why Florida struggled in 2023. You really look no further on the offensive side of the football than the offensive line play, right? It just wasn't where it needed to be. They struggled running the football. They struggled in pass protection. I think Billy Napier made some really good moves in the transfer portal. But again, I don't think Billy Napier wants it to look consistently, hey, we need to go find starters in the transfer portal every single year. To really address that offensive line, you look at all the best offensive lines in the country, it comes from recruiting these kind of kids from the high school ranks, getting them developed. And Jason Zandamela, again, quote unquote, a transfer portal addition. This is essentially just adding Jason Zandamela as a true freshman coming in that 2024 class that's just going to get on campus in the summer. I'm a big fan of Jason Zandamela. I'm even a bigger fan of the youth that Florida is kind of accumulating on the offensive line. And again, you look 3 years down the road, say this offensive line has the bones to be a very good offensive line, and that is key in terms of what Billy Napier wants to do with this program. Another big-time commitment. Florida Gator fans, appreciate you guys rocking with the boys. Y'all know I have a blast talking this team, and the amount of support really does mean a lot. We'll talk to y'all later. Peace.